Welcome to Film and Page. I'm Dominic, and in this video, I'm going to be talking about nostalgia. So I was thinking about this the other day, like what is my nostalgic cutoff point? What is the last movie, video game, or a song? Like what were the last of those things that really gave me that feeling? And what years were kind of like the cutoff point? Where now after that point, I don't really feel that anymore for for the media, for movies and video games, books and stuff like that. So first of all, what is nostalgia? So nostalgia is the feeling you get when you see or you see an old movie or you hear an old song. Usually that can trigger a strong sense of it that reminds you of something in the past that you associate it with good feelings or having a good time. Like you were in a really good state of mind at that point when you saw that movie or heard that song, like at some point in your childhood or your teenage years. So now as an adult, you hear it and you kind of get that, it brings back those feelings. It kind of gives you a warm feeling. And that's what nostalgia is. So I was wondering, like, what is the cutoff point for that? So I did a quick internet search, and apparently I'm not the only one that has asked that question. So I found this question on the Anime Superhero Forum. And so the question is exactly what I was thinking. What year is your nostalgia cutoff point? So I'm going to read this person's answer, and then I'm going to give my own. Having been born in 2001, I have a strong emotional attachment to the 2000s era and actively seek out cartoons, television series, movies, video games, advertisements, and archived content from that decade. My most frequent target is 2006-2008, because those are the years I most clearly remember and associate the best content with. In my opinion, the end of childhood nostalgia for me would be 2009. I have lots of reasons as to why this year was the point at which my childhood gradually declined. But I'll just cut to the basics, covering media first. By this year, most of the shows I had been watching, the big three kid networks were the main ones I watched, had either ended or been cancelled. For Cartoon Network, this was their lowest point in my opinion, as Foster's and Ed, Edd and Eddy, two of their greatest and most classic shows in my humble opinion, had ended. Ed, Edd and Eddy at least went out with a bang, but Foster's not so much, as the final felt rushed. The only good originals that were still going were Chowder and Flapjack, but it didn't help that they were going to end by the next year anyway. I wasn't caring for the Ben 10 reboots or the Secret Saturdays. Other than that, their lineup only consisted of Canadian and action imports, the only good one of which was Total Drama. But the ultimate ship sail this year was the introduction of Cartoon Network Reel. No further comment needed on that one. For Nick, I really wasn't watching them outside of SpongeBob, but this was definitely the time SpongeBob hit its ultimate decline, around season 6 and 7, where the writing became atrociously bad and gave us infamous fan unfavorites like Squid's Visit, Someone's in the Kitchen with Sandy, Pets vs. Pests, Slide Whistle Stooges, and their filler waste 1-hour TV special Truth or Square. Most of the good kid coms like Drake and Josh and Ned's Declassified had already long ended, and iCarly had already gone downhill with the infamous I Meet Fred. This was also the period where their logo changed from the classic splat to just orange letters. They were milking off DreamWorks spin-off shows and brought us arguably their least positively received cartoon, Fanboy and Chum Chum. As for Disney Channel, the only good thing that still stood with them was Pianas and Ferb. That was their only original cartoon left before Fishhooks a year later. The replacements and Kim Possible had ended, which gave me no reason to watch the network anymore. The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody was replaced by On the Deck, which I didn't enjoy and found rather boring. The rest of their kidcoms I had no interest in watching. There weren't many movies I cared to see which came out aside from Up. I saw Cloudy with a Chance of Meatballs in the theaters this year, and it didn't sit well with me, as I was just unimpressed and bored. Ditto for Monsters vs. Aliens. This had also been the year where I made the transition to a new elementary school for 3rd grade, which was a turning point that sets a divide between old and new regarding memories. For the record, I don't regard content from 2009 as old. Okay, kind of old, but not old, if that makes sense. The same way people as old as me would, and for the record, I don't even consider content from 2006 to 2008 to be that old, though I do get more nostalgia from it, which sets a divide between how recent or not I consider something. In fact, I do find it hard to believe that 2007 was 15 years ago. When someone says 15 years ago, I think of the late 90s, not 2007. I guess my loss of nostalgia at 2009 had to do with the gradual transition into the new 2010s. So it's kind of interesting to read someone who's quite a bit younger than me and how they viewed the 2000s, which I viewed through a completely different lens because I was a grown man in the 2000s. I wasn't a kid, I was already grown up. And most of the shows, some of these shows I actually have heard of, like Kim Possible and Ben 10. I think I might have seen an odd episode or two of Ben 10 and The Sweet Life of Zack and Cody. I've heard of that one. And that's probably about it. Oh, and Square Bob, SpongePants, of course, it's a really popular show. So I've never really seen any episodes, but I know of the cartoon. So it's interesting to see where this person's particular cutoff point for their nostalgia is. Pretty interesting. So now, as for mine. For me, I was thinking about this for the last few days. Like, what's the last movie that really gives me the warm and fuzzies? What's the last film that I really feel nostalgic for? And I was thinking about it, and to be honest, the last movie that I really feel that for is, when it comes to films, is The Phantom Menace. I was thinking about it the other day. That's the last one that came out in 1999. I would have been 21, 22 when the movie came out. So that was like when I think about the movie, I go and rewatch the movie, I do kind of get that warm, fuzzy feeling. And it does bring back a sense of nostalgia because this movie was one that I had waited a long time for, was really excited for, like a lot of Star Wars fans was. And upon first viewing the movie, I really liked it. I really liked the movie. I have to say it. It was a lot of fun to watch it. It was kind of like after repeat viewings, I kind of started to see the flaws and stuff like that. And then it was a lot of things I really couldn't put my finger on. And then I got on to the internet for the first time and started reading what other fans thought of the movie. And then I could they were articulating the flaws that I couldn't quite put my finger on. But it is the last movie that I think it's the last movie that I do have that feeling for, is The Phantom Menace. I can't think of any other movies that I really had that feeling for. I don't have it for Attack of the Clones, which came out in 2002. I don't have it for Revenge of the Jedi or Revenge of the Sith. Even though Revenge of the Sith is my favorite one of the prequel films, I think it's the best one. I don't have the same strong sense of nostalgia for that one as I do The Phantom Menace. Like The Phantom Menace, that was around that area. Like for my cutoff point would probably be where that guy was like 2006 or 2009 was his cutoff point. Mine would be like late 90s into like early 2000s, 2001, 2002, in that point somewhere. And I was like pretty into Star Wars at this point. Here's a picture of my old bedroom. And this, well, you can see all the Phantom Menace stuff I got up on the wall there. So I was pretty stoked. Now this was 2000, 2001 in that time period. And yeah, you can see from that this was at like one of my peaks of being in the Star Wars when that movie came out. Now I was thinking about now some other things have other cutoff dates. I would say video games, probably the last video games that I really got into and I feel really nostalgic about was the Resident Evil games. And I was kind of late playing those. They had already been out for a few years. So I played Resident Evil 2. That was around like 99, 2000. And then Resident Evil 3 I played right after that and around that same time. And then Resident Evil 1, I kind of played them all switched around. I played 2 and 3 first, and then I got Resident Evil 1, played through that one. So that was in a span of a few short years. So from like 99 up to like 2002, 2003. And then the other game that I really feel a strong sense of that, and for the last game I felt that for, was Dune 2000. And I played that in, I played that game the first time I really played. I had seen other people play it before, but the first time I got to sit down and really dig in and play the game was when I got my first personal computer. And that was 2001. That's when I was working, saved up the money, bought my first personal computer, first time logged into the internet, on my own. I had been on the internet, like at a friend's house and stuff like that, libraries, but for the first time got onto the internet with my own computer, and was buying video games, bought Dune 2000 and played the shit out of it. Played it over and over and over again. And so some of those are the last years I think I had that cut, that for me, that I feel that. When I was in my early 20s then. Obviously, the further back you go, like the further back I go with stuff, like the feeling of nostalgia gets stronger. So like my strongest feeling is the 80s, because that's when I grew up. So like things like Transformers, He-Man, a really strong sense of that. And it does have a big effect on how you perceive things. Like comparing like something modern to something that came out when you were a child. Like, perfect example, because I've been talking about a lot, is Star Trek. So I've been watching Strange New Worlds. It's not bad. It's the best of this current era of Trek, in my opinion. Much better than Discovery, much better than Picard. I might like it more than Enterprise, but I'm not sure yet. Still have to give it some time before I decide that. But like that TV show, as good as it is, or as good as it might become, it'll never be as good, or I'll never love it like I like the original series or Star Trek The Next Generation, because I have a really powerful sense of nostalgia for those two shows. Because when Star Trek The Next Generation came out, I was only 10 years old. That came out in 1987 when I started watching that. And then the original series was just always on TV. Like, I can't remember a point in time where it didn't come on. Like, I don't even remember the first time I seen it. It was just like, it's always been there. Same thing. I have a very powerful sense of nostalgia for that. So it doesn't matter how good they recast the roles of Spock and Kirk, and how awesome the special effects are, or how what the story, I mean, I can, even if they write a really good story and I really like the story, it'll never be the same. It'll never be the same for me, because it just doesn't have that same attachment. Because now that I'm older, like, the sense of nostalgia, it just gets lessened as you get older. So for movies that came out in like 2008, 2009, I mean, there's movies obviously that came out that I rewatch and I really like, but I don't have that same power, that same sense of nostalgia for them. Like when I think back on them, or I see them again, I don't get that same warm, fuzzy feeling again. So I think, like, for movies, I was thinking Phantom Menace, that's the cutoff point. So the year 1999. So anything after that, I don't have that same sense. And video games, 2001, 2002, the Resident Evil games, and then Dune 2000. That's probably my cutoff point for that when it comes to nostalgia. So I don't know, interesting topic. I just was thinking about it today, because I've been doing up some videos, stockpiling some videos for when I go on vacation in July. I can have something to fill the 2 weeks with. And one of the videos was Star Wars related, and it got me thinking about the Phantom Menace, and got me thinking about the whole nostalgic thing and all that, because I kind of wanted to watch the Phantom Menace the other week, and I kind of got that feeling. I'd like to rewatch that movie again, even though it has a lot of flaws and stuff. It still gives me the warm fuzzies. But that's the cutoff point. The other two doesn't do it. So I don't know. I just find that whole thing kind of interesting. And it was kind of interesting to look it up and see what other people's cutoff points were and how they perceived it differently and all that kind of thing. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. I'd like to say thank you to all of my subscribers. I appreciate you all in helping this channel grow. If you're new to the channel, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Also, don't forget to hit the bell icon so you'll be notified when new videos are uploaded.